All right, off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Transition over to the Cincinnati Reds real quick. An update on they have reassigned a couple players throughout camp to minor league camp. And one of the key names on that list, a name that should not be of any surprise, Noelvi Marte on that list right there. I know that's a name we've been keeping an eye on as far as a guy that has high expectations, or that we at one point had high expectations for. A very interesting 2024 run, a lot of distractions, a lot of not living up to expectations, this, that, and the other. Had a chance to redeem himself in camp. I don't think that he's failed. I think the Reds just have a lot of depth in the middle infield right now, and we wanted to see if he can make things interesting. Are you surprised that his name pops up on the list of guys that were cut and reassigned to minor league camp as we sit here in mid-March?
If you want me to be a sports talk guy, I would say, sure, I'm a little surprised because at one point he was a touted prospect. Once I think we traded him or traded Luis Castillo for him and Edwin Arroyo and Levi Stout and Andrew Moore, I think Noelvi was going to be our number one prospect at the time, and it was going to be exciting. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised. But if I'm going to be honest, of course I'm not surprised. He's been terrible. He's been objectively terrible since the whole steroid situation played out. He's been one of the worst players in baseball. So, no, I'm not shocked by this. He should be starting in AAA. It's an unserious organization if they let that guy get major league at-bats. And obviously there's a couple more names on this list we'll touch on here in a second that the Reds have reassigned to minor league camp and or option to AAA. But as for Noelvi Marte, no. I mean, that's what happens when you're bad at baseball. You don't play in Major League Baseball. Now, I will say, Casey, we can throw the whole graphic up there because there are some other names on there that I thought Rece Hinds could have been a guy that was competing for an outfield spot. Obviously, it's a crowded outfield at this very second with who's going to get there. But I would have liked to see Rece Hinds have a chance, and maybe he will come up at some point this season. I like Rece Hinds a lot, and hopefully he's able to make his way. Connor Phillips has been, I would say, a disappointment the past 2 years or so, or at least a year and a half. He's been a disappointment. That's pretty disappointing. Again, Sal Stewart is another name, obviously being reassigned to minor league camp. He's had a good spring, so that's a bummer to see. But yeah, these are all moves that I expected, I would say, to happen, So
yeah,
no major shocks. It goes back to this Mariners deal, though. I keep looking at it. Mariners get Luis Castillo. The Reds get Noelvi Marte, Edwin Arroyo, Levi Stout, Andrew Moore. How close are we? I know Edwin and Noelvi are young. How close are we to that trade not working out at all?
If Edwin and Noelvi do anything, I think it's a decent deal.
Because I think
Castillo was never going to re-sign here. That's the biggest thing everyone always misses because he's still producing in Seattle. He signed an extension almost right away after that. I forget what the number was, but he was never going to re-sign in Cincinnati. So, I mean, obviously, we could have never guessed Noelvi was going to take burger steroids and be out for a year and come back and stink. So that definitely throws a wrench in the plans. But, yeah, I think with what Edwin Arroyo is as a prospect and what we thought Noelvi could be, if he can get back to any kind of version of that, I don't think that'll be the worst thing in the world. Obviously, I think if you just change the pitcher names and send Tyler Mahle in theory for that return and send Castillo for the Twins return, you got two pretty good trades. So I think it did all work out for the Reds. Obviously, we're in a situation now where we're talking about potentially being a playoff team, so I think it's a good place to be. It's a tough pill to swallow if Marte never works out. I do feel vindicated, though, with him getting sent down for buying his stock, because if he would have been in the MLB, that would have not been good for the prices. The whole premise around buying his stock is it's as low as humanly possible right now, and this proves that is true.
People didn't understand that segment.
No, not at all.
People didn't understand.
Not at all. They thought we were just buying and selling the players.
Correct. They didn't understand.
Obviously,
that
I think Matt McLain's a better player than Noelvi Marte. I did see a rankings yesterday that had him MLB Network as the number 6 second baseman in baseball.
Really?
He's played 90 games.
How about that?
90 games.
Number 6.
Number
baby.
6. Elly was number 2 shortstop.
Behind who? Gunnar?
I think it was Gunnar. Or no, it was Bobby Witt, and Gunnar was 3.
National media has jumped. They jumped on the McLain bandwagon right away, like
big time.
Right
big
away.
Time.
There's a lot of guys that they'll see years of very good baseball from that they don't jump on. They saw 90 games, and I mean, a lot of times when people talk about how the Reds are going to be so much better this year, it's because Matt McLain's coming back, and it's like, although that definitely is going to be a reason that they are going to be better, there's still part of me that's like, well, man, like, this is going to be technically his year too. And we saw what year 2 meant for a lot of rookies who had great years their initial, good, first season. So we'll see. I don't want anything bad out of Matt McLain. I'm hoping that they're right at the end of the day. But yeah, they've been very high on Matt McLain. Also, I know you guys, I think you reacted to this on Friday. I'm not sure what was covered, what wasn't, but Hunter Greene, the opening day starter, that's an easy one. I don't think that was at any point was ever going to be up for debate. I do know when they released their rotation, though, obviously we figured 1 and 2 was going to be Hunter Greene, Nick Lodolo, but Nick Martinez coming in at number 3 in the rotation with Brady Singer as they're pitching in the 4 spot. And then they don't have a 5th pitcher listed, which I think, we've kind of been debating that who that 5th pitcher is going to be in that rotation. When you look at that rotation order, anything stand out to you? Nick Martinez, the number 3 pitcher in this rotation.
No, I think that's about what I expected. Maybe you could have said Brady Singer, and I think as the season goes on, that whole starting rotation is going to change outside of Hunter Greene. I do believe that. So you're going to see a lot of different starting rotations throughout a course of a 6-month season. And not having a 5th starter right now is frustrating. Andrew Abbott's still dealing with an injury. I don't know who's going to take that spot. If I were a betting man, I'd bet on Graham Ashcraft. Carson Spires was an innings eater last year. You could see Carson Spires. So it's probably a 50-50 shot between him and Ashcraft who takes that 5th starting job. And then, of course, you have the conversation, what happens when Abbott comes back and and you don't need Graham Ashcraft to start, or you don't need Carson Spires to start. What's the bullpen going to look like then? So there are some interesting pieces still to be determined, and we still have a lot of spring left. So I'm not going to make too many drastic calls now, but I would bet a lot of money the 5th starter is Graham Ashcraft.
I would expect we see Graham Ashcraft a lot in this rotation this year. I think obviously, with what we saw last year, I think we're pretty scarred in Cincinnati with how many pitchers we can expect to see in a given season. But if any injury happens, I would assume that's the easy pick, and you throw him in the rotation for as long as you need him there, and then you go back whenever anyone gets healthy. And hopefully he's a serviceable enough bullpen arm that he just stays in the majors and stays with the Reds, and we don't have to worry about any kind of back and forth or anything like that. But if he's just going to be a starter, I would assume he's the next man up in every single situation. We do have to remember, I know we say it as a joke a lot, but what was it, 2 years ago? He was part of the Big Three. So it's not a terrible situation to have if he's your first one up when an injury rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told me back in July or August that he'd be part of the rotation in 25, I would have been like, that's not a good thing. I don't think it's a terrible thing as long as he could bounce back a bit. Confidence obviously going to be crucial in that. But do want Andrew Abbott back. I think the Reds need Andrew Abbott back very soon. Rhett Lauder obviously being restricted with his throwing program from the beginning of spring. What's the outlook for his season going to be as well? I know he's throwing, so that's fine. But like they have some options. They have some options. But I don't know if Graham Ashcraft being in the 5th spot is a good or bad thing. I don't know if it's great. I don't know if it's bad. It's just going to kind of be a wait and see thing. I do know it doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside that Graham Ashcraft is your 5th pitcher. I will be honest.
Better than 3rd.
Yeah, to be fair.
There's no doubt I'd rather have Andrew Abbott at this very second. But I Graham Ashcraft, I think, has shown that he can pitch at a major league level. It's just, can he go that 3rd rotation or 3rd time around the lineup? Are you going to be able to do that? And I don't know if he's going to be able to, but if he can give me 5 innings of solid work, I'll count it.
Him at 5 works out perfect if Nick Lodolo doesn't regress. I know that sounds weird.
Nick Lodolo is the big thing this year. If Nick Lodolo can be healthy and if he's able to compete at a major league level throughout the entire season, I'm going to be very, very happy. If he's unable to do that this year, we're going to have some hard conversations.
Yep, no doubt. All right. Well, that wraps it up for us on the radio side. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. Hit the like button if you haven't already on the way out. We'd appreciate that. And we'll do this again tomorrow. Until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.